Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to take a look at all the times that Disney Plus has used their streaming platform to their advantage and updated their Marvel content, fixing errors, timeline mistakes, even in few cases doing a little bit of censorship. So I would love your thoughts on this. It's kind of a controversial topic. Should you leave the original stuff exactly the way it was, errors and all, or is it okay to go back and fix mistakes? Controversial, and I'd love to know your thoughts after you've watched this video, because I read all the comments and respond to all of them. But in the meantime, let's dive right in to look at how Disney Plus has changed their Marvel content. Now, I know I said Marvel content, but I do have to do one example outside of Marvel, because this is the most famous one. This is what really got people watching to see how Disney Plus is going to handle things. This is Mandalorian Season 1, and I'm sure you've heard about my main man in the jeans over on the far left. He's just chilling there thinking no one can see him. Dude, we can totally see you. So yeah, this got all over the internet. People really had a lot of fun with this until Disney Plus went back in and digitized him out, so you won't see him in the episode any longer. But I also love that there was a famous gag people put out that yes, you can even buy Jeans Guy, Jeans Guy action figure. I would totally buy this. I'd love to have it for my collection. Too funny. So yeah, good example up front that Disney is more than willing to go in and fix their errors, and that's an advantage they have that they didn't have in the old days. Now with it all being streaming, just go right out and fix it. So let's look at Marvel and all the times they've done it. Okay, so Moon Knight had its own camera guy gaffe. In Moon Knight Episode 3, during a chase scene, yeah, you can see the dude there over on the right thinking he's out of the camera shot, and no, we can totally see you, man. So in this case, they didn't digitize him out, but if you watch the scene again, they've just tightened it. It's tightened it so that you can't see what would have been there. It's probably cheaper to do it this way, to be honest. But yeah, pretty cool. I have no issue with this type of thing. We don't need an error to stay in there. So yeah, Moon Knight, great example. Another example, if we look at Miss Marvel, we're going to see an error. But first, though, we have to discuss that in No Way Home, the Statue of Liberty was, of course, restored to its copper color. It oxidized over time. That's what turns it green. But in No Way Home, they fixed it. Well, Miss Marvel happens after No Way Home in the timeline, yet, yikes, there it is with its oxidized green color. Well, or there it was, because actually just less than a month ago, they fixed it. Now it's over to its copper color, which is great. I love that. It was actually confusing because from a timeline standpoint, Miss Marvel is after No Way Home, but you would think it's before. In fact, you would think it's intentional that they did this, when actually it was a mistake. And here's another example. Thanks to the direct.com, we can see that in Miss Marvel originally, it was the green color, and then they fixed it to be the copper color. So again, I love this. This is great. Not only is it just an error in general, but it's a timeline error, and it's very confusing. So kudos to Marvel for spending the time and the money to go in and update this and fix it. I love it. All right, another continuity issue that Marvel fixed. This one a little while back. In Hawkeye, Episode 1, there was an error that when you look at Avengers, you can plainly see that it was wrong. So in the Avengers movie, during the attack by Loki and the Chitauri, the letter K gets blasted off the building. It was one of the first letters to get blown away. However, in Hawkeye Episode 1, notice it's the R that's knocked off, not the K. At least that's what it was until they fixed it. And this one, I think, made a lot of sense to fix, because I admit I was one of the many people that thought, well, they couldn't have done this by accident. I wonder if this means something. I mean, is this like an alternate reality? Is this because of an alternate timeline because of Kang? What does this mean? So, Marvel was sitting there going, doggone it. No, we got to fix this. We did not mean for this to be different. It was just a mistake. So again, kudos to Marvel for taking the time to go in and make this right. All right. Then there's smaller errors that probably you could just ignore and move on with. But notice Vision's left arm, pretty conspicuously there. Yeah, that is Paul Bettany's arm, not Vision's arm. So they fixed that too. Sorry, the screen capture is terrible there. But if you go watch it now, you will clearly see the red Vision arm that should have been there to begin with. Some other interesting things. So in the Malcolm in the Middle episode that was parodying the show Malcolm in the Middle, Vision is introduced as the Vision. I mean, this is really minor, but I'll give them credit. It now says Vision. So, okay, wow, very impressive. They're really taking time to get all this stuff right. Okay, great. Then this is really wild. In the post-credit scene, there was not originally, and now is, this creepy-looking figure floating down the hill. If you go back and watch it, it goes the whole way down the hill. So this made people wonder, oh, are they trying to say that's Doctor Strange? Because, Multiverse of Madness hadn't come out yet when this change was made. But was it done in preparation for Multiverse of Madness? I mean, who knows? I don't know why Doctor Strange wouldn't have just portaled in and why he would float down the mountain. But that was one possibility. Or another is it's something else and we don't know at this time. Pretty weird. So go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. I was amazed. I did not notice that. I mean, it wasn't there to begin with, but I didn't even notice it on rewatch not that long ago. So wild. A couple other changes, though, that are a little more explainable. Notice the trees around the cabin, but you might remember in Multiverse of Madness, there were a ton of trees around the cabin. Well, they started adding more. I mean, it's not a ton more, but if you study those two images, you can see they definitely added some more trees. But as we get closer to the cabin, you can really see it. So here's the cabin originally, and then look at all the trees now. And that makes sense, because definitely there were a ton of trees in Multiverse of Madness. And then even as we zoom in closer, you can see again, a lot more trees. And this one took time and effort. So I'll really give him credit for that, to keep the continuity accurate between the end of WandaVision and the beginning of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. All right. What else did they do? Well, this is really minor, other than, I guess it was not minor if it's your name that was missing, right? So they added the Doctor Strange theme credits. That's good. They should. Credit where credit is due, right? So minor change, but still an important one. Then this one's kind of weird. So Thor: Love and Thunder gets a floating head update. I mean, certainly one of the weirder scenes in the movie. And they changed it. It's better. The CGI is better, I guess. I don't know. It's almost creepier now. But it was creepy in both cases, but very interesting. So there may be a lot of minor things that people just haven't noticed yet, but this one really stood out to people, and I see why. That is very, very different. So, okay, I guess, I mean, we know how there were CGI issues in Phase 4 as things were rushed. So if this is really what they intended and they want to take the time to fix it, I'm all for it. Great. Then there's some minor things, but this is still interesting. So the Netflix name, not surprisingly, was stripped from the Defenders shows when they show up on Disney+. So notice it says Marvel Television and Netflix Presents. Well, not anymore. Sorry, Netflix. So you can see the Netflix version and the Disney Plus version. Another great example, a Netflix original series. No, it's not. So, I get it. I totally get why they would do this. Kind of funny. I guess if you're Netflix, you're like, man, come on. You're getting petty now. But not really. No, not really. Disney Plus does not want to promote a competitor. Okay, this one is interesting. The Jessica Jones title card was briefly changed. So notice this is what it looked like when it was on Netflix. Then on Disney Plus, it became AKA Jessica Jones. Now I say the title card. This was just if you were watching the episode. On the interface, it was always called Jessica Jones. But the reason I say briefly changed is I went out to go check it just recently, but while making this video, and the AKA is gone. So I don't know. Maybe they thought it was cool and people said, no, it's not. Get rid of it. I mean, the episodes all have AKA in front of the episode names. So I don't know why they did this and then took it away. But nonetheless, however, there are some other things that look more like censoring. So this one was really controversial. So this is from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's two scenes. On the left, the guy gets, impaled to the wall there by a metal pipe. Ouch. And on the right is Nagel after he got killed by Zemo. Then briefly, the scenes were updated like this. Now, the one on the left is just silly. I mean, the dude still looks like he's impaled to the wall, yet the pipe missed? Huh? And by the way, I want to credit again the direct.com. They're fantastic. They report on all this stuff. It's great. If you've never been out to their website, check it out. They're awesome. And Twitter. But anyway, on the right, Nagel, the blood has been digitized out and his eyes are closed. So a lot less, kind of creepy looking. But here's what's weird. This is Disney's own content. Why would they censor their own content? Well, after a bit of an uproar, they went back to the originals. So if you go watch it now, you'll see the top half. And Disney said it was a mistake that they couldn't explain. They didn't understand why it happened. I don't know. This really raised people's feelers to being like, okay, we're watching everything now to see what you change. And this would be an example of a bad, in my opinion, a bad modification. I'm fine with the continuity errors and those things being fixed. That's great. I would not agree with this, and I'm glad that they undid it. So, all right, that's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But there is still something that was censored and continues to be censored on Disney+. So the All Hail the King one-shot. This is kind of interesting. Well, first of all, that actor, doesn't that look like Melvin Potter? It does, because that is the same actor. I'm not sure it's supposed to be Melvin. In fact, he's given the name Dave in the episode, but still, kind of interesting. But nonetheless, Dave, or Melvin, confronts Trevor, and then along come his bodyguards. And this is the dialogue, which I have also, for the sake of this video, mildly censored. You're going to be able to figure out what the words are, but I don't want to get the video in trouble or my channel in trouble. Nonetheless, here's the dialogue. So White Power Dave says, you know what I want right now? And Trevor says, an autograph? And Dave says, I want to give the world exactly what it's been crying for. Your dead body laid out on a slab. Then Herman says, hey, racial insult, what's up? And Trevor says, it's the fan base. Kiss my rings. We'll leave it at that. So here's what's interesting. Marvel didn't have an issue with the profanity, but if you listen to the episode, the racial insult is now gone. But I say listen because if you turn on closed captioning, it's still there. So, I mean, Marvel or Disney only went so far in censoring. So yeah, Herman just basically says, "Hey, what's up?" But if you turn on closed captioning, you'll get the full thing. Okay, I guess. I mean, I can understand getting rid of a racial insult. We don't need that. I mean, being Caucasian myself, I don't really care about that insult. It doesn't bother me, but I get it. It's just any type of insult that is race-based is a bad idea. Good to get it out of there. So I think it's the right move in this case. Now, this is more interesting. So Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends has lost an episode. Notice episode 12 is missing. Now, originally that was the Quest of the Red Skull. So why would you get rid of that, you ask? Well, it is true that it has a lot of Nazi symbols in it, swastikas, etc. Now, they're all painted in a negative light. They're working for the Red Skull, who is the bad guy. But nonetheless, it is true that young children these days, especially young males, are being indoctrinated pretty early into, Nazi terminology, etc. My son had some friends even that were looking at the wrong websites at young ages. So I guess this makes sense. I mean, because obviously these cartoons are aimed at a younger age. So whatever. I don't know. I don't know that I would have removed it. It isn't a bad episode, but I get it. Nazis are bad. And so, yeah, probably for the best. Also, a real quick true confession, I totally had a crush on Firestar. Totally. Probably why I watched the cartoons so much. All right, anyway, Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four also lost an episode. Notice episode 4 is missing. And it was an episode about the Skrulls, which, again, you're like, okay, why was this missing? Now, this was done in the 90s, so a while back. So, therefore, a scene where the Twin Towers are destroyed wasn't as big of a deal when it was created. However, after 9/11, I'm sure you can guess it could be a little traumatic. Maybe it brings up conversations that are a little too difficult with kids. So they eliminated the episode. I don't know. I almost wish they just clipped that scene out. I'd rather they keep the majority of the episode was fine as far as I understand, but I get it. So anyway, a little bit of censorship of some of the Marvel content here. And then this one's really interesting. So one of the X-Men episodes, notice Beast is reading a book, and it's really hard to see what the book says, but it is The Making of the President, 1968. So you say, okay, what, and then you see the presidential seal down there. So you say, okay, well, what went on here? Well, go watch it now. And yes, it is blurred. It's the making of the blur and blur for the presidential seal. So at least my understanding is what happened is this book is now under the copywriting of Paramount. So theoretically, Disney's like, well, we don't really want to have to deal with Paramount. We're just going to blur this out. Okay, I guess I don't have an issue with it. It goes by so fast you wouldn't even notice it. It's amazing that people caught some of this stuff. People are looking scene by scene by scene to catch some of this stuff. So, all right, I guess if it means we get the episode, sure, do that. Because the other option is they just would have had to eliminate this episode. So thank goodness they didn't go that route, like they did, unfortunately, with both Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. But then if you look at some major league censoring, this one was surprising. So Deadpool, everybody was very happy that the Marvel put on R-rated content, right? Logan and Deadpool. And they were all wondering, will they censor stuff? For the most part, no. But when Deadpool enters the strip club, the nether regions, I'll leave it at that, of the dancers have been very obviously blurred, almost humorously blurred. Like there was no attempt to try to pretend like we're not really blurring. Oh, it's so obvious. So I'm not going to show the before and after because, again, I don't want my channel to get in trouble. But if you want to go watch it on Vudu or Movies Anywhere or on your DVD and then watch it on Disney Plus, you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's a really obvious blurring. So, okay, that's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, what are we seeing here? That Marvel is not, or Disney is not censoring much, but they're censoring, racial insults, certain elements of nudity, and I guess books that are owned by rival companies. All right, that's fine. So we've seen all these different examples. Now, if you could have Disney go and do something that they haven't fixed yet, what would that be? Well, my number one thing that when it starts streaming, please, 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 y'all know what's coming, right? Please fix this. Please put a 4. Make this go away so we never have to talk about it again. I will say, though, the one sticky point of fixing it seems so easy, right? Put a 4. But here's the problem. Maybe problem. In the same scene, Toombs, Vulture, is holding this drawing that Liz made when she was a kid. So the theory is it was age appropriate for her to draw something like this 8 years ago. Would it still be if it was 4 years ago? Do we suddenly get into bigger issues? Well, I'll say this much. I'm a terrible artist. I couldn't draw something this well even at my current age. So I think it's age appropriate for Liz to be only 4 years younger than 8 years younger. So I don't think it's an issue, and I would like them to fix that error. Please, Marvel, please. All right, so there you go. These are all the times, at least that I'm aware of, that Disney Plus has updated Marvel content, at least. So leave down in the comments a couple different things. Tell me if I missed any, first of all. Is there anything else they've edited that I missed? Tell me your thought in general. Are you okay with this? Again, if they're fixing legitimate errors, is that right to do? If they're censoring things that otherwise would have made it difficult to still show it, even with age-appropriate levels, are you okay with that? And then, what's your wish list? Beyond the 8 years later, what else would you like to see them go back and fix? I read all the comments, respond to all of them. I'd love to know what you're thinking. Also, don't forget, we have a Discord server. You can join it. We'd love to have you be part of the conversation. Well over 300 people now across time zones, across the entire world, actually. And I will have a link to join the Discord server down as a pinned comment on this video. Also, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we can all continue to enjoy the ever-expanding, ever-growing Marvel Cinematic Universe.